Okay, I think we are able to record it now. Let me get back to the screen sharing. Okay, here we go. Right. So I think it's being recorded, and can you see the record button now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So we are recording it. So today we are going to continue with our class of applied linguistics. Just having a quick recap of what did we do yesterday. We talked about applied linguistics, and we talked about what is applied linguistics actually as a branch of linguistics, and how do we differentiate it from theoretical linguistics. We just touched upon it, and I asked you to find out the differences between applied linguistics and theoretical linguistics. And I also told you that applied linguistics is a very, very broad branch of linguistics, and there has been debates in the academia whether applied linguistics is only restricted to language teaching and learning, or it caters to other problems related to language. There are a number of definitions of applied linguistics. Please mute yourselves. Okay, there have been a number of definitions of applied linguistics. Many of the definitions you would see that they are, these definitions only take language teaching, testing, and syllabus designing into the domain of applied linguistics. Whereas there are some other researchers who believe that applied linguistics deals with language problems, or whatever they are, whether they are related to language teaching or learning, whether they are related to the area of psycholinguistics, or whether they are related to the area of sociolinguistics, the way language works in the society, or it's related to critical discourse analysis, how a language has implied meaning. For instance, the field of pragmatics. I don't know how many of these branches you might have touched upon during your initial courses in linguistics. So theoretical linguistics, of course, it's also a broad branch of linguistics. And I told you that basically there are two branches of linguistics. Linguistics being the scientific exploration and scientific learning of the language. So it has two branches, theoretical linguistics and applied linguistics. Our course is of theoretical linguistics. We are going to talk about different branches of, applied linguistics. We're going to talk about different branches related to the applied linguistics, but we need to know how this is different from theoretical linguistics. You can all read the chats also. Some people, I hope you have not copy pasted, and you have a good understanding of what theoretical linguistics is, right? Now, as these terms indicate, theoretical linguistics has much to do with the structure of the language, the theory of the language, okay? And it has less to do with the practical application and implication of the language. It, of course, it also solves certain language problems.
Ami!
Nagma, I can hear the baby crying. Please mute yourself. Girls, please see that you mute yourselves. I cannot do that again and again. It's really an interruption in the lecture. It improves your... Nagma, your mic is on. Please mute this. Okay. When you mute your mics, you know the connectivity of internet improves, and there is less disruption in the voice. You will hear me better. So please make sure your mics are off. Okay. I hope you will learn with the passage of time, but you know, we had a class yesterday. I expect you to actually able to operate Zoom. Who is this Zia Khan Kakar? Please mute yourself. Okay. So, okay. So we were discussing the differences between the theoretical and applied linguistics. For me personally, applied linguistics is more interesting. You might find theoretical linguistics interesting too. A lot of work in the European countries is being done on theoretical linguistics. For instance, the phonology of the language, the morphology of the language. Sometimes we count semantics also, because semantics deals with the meaning and not with the implied meaning. So whenever it comes to the implied meaning, for instance, in the branch of pragmatics, and whenever it comes to the practical problems of language, for example, in sociolinguistics, whenever it comes to studying dialects and accents, and nations and tribes and ethnicities and their languages, and talking about languages that are getting extinct, all of this comes in applied linguistics. So applied linguistics has to do with the practical application of language. By practical application, we mean that whatever research takes place, this comes with a solution of the practical problems related to the language. Okay. If I give you a little example, as I told you that many of the linguists and academicians and researchers still believe that applied linguistics deals basically with language teaching. Now, in language teaching, it's just not the classroom teaching. In language teaching, we include the syllabus designing, language methodologies, and even methods of testing. Okay. Now, when we talk about testing methods, if you have heard about different international tests like IELTS or GRE, these are language proficiency tests. IELTS is 100% language proficiency test, whereas in GRE, some of the other skills are also tested besides your language proficiency in English language. And, you take these tests if you are interested in studying abroad. Anyway, so these tests are also formed through different researches and through certain parameters that are established for language testing. And these are all the results of applied linguistics, research in applied linguistics. Okay. Then you must have seen, if you have a chance of getting admission in language centers, they have their own entrance test, the proficiency test, and then they place you in different levels. Those are called as placement tests. Okay, so all of these tests are constructed through different researches, and these are some kind of established tests. At least the international tests are the established tests, and all of these are the results of applied linguistics. So applied linguistics is so broad that sometimes people have tried to confine it only to research this language teaching methodologies, syllabus designing and testing. And the syllabus that we would be focusing more on would be these, okay? Teaching, testing, syllabus designing, and the problems of ELT in Pakistan, English language teaching, right? So I hope the differentiation between theoretical linguistics and applied linguistics is a little clear to you. We have got some really good answers in the chat section from your class fellows also. You may read them. We can discuss them if there is a need to, but what I really wanted you to do and to know is the basic difference between the theoretical linguistics and the applied linguistics. I told you that I personally find applied linguistics more interesting because the researches in applied linguistics are field-based, okay? I don't know if you have started your research methodology course, but Um, uh, the basic difference between researchers in literature and linguistics is that of the field researchers. Field researchers are not, are not really questionable for their reliability because you work with authentic data. So when you're researching in field research in applied linguistics, um, these usually come in field researches, and you would be, some of you would who would be selected for research in the next semester would be doing the thesis, and you will have a better idea of what applied linguistics is and how do you conduct research. And you will find out that most of you would be doing research in applied linguistics rather than in theoretical linguistics. Okay, so theoretical linguistics, as you know, it deals with the structure of the language, the grammar of the language, morphology, and syntax. I don't know how much are you familiar with these terms. Please tell me, are you familiar with these terms of syntax, morphology, phonology, semantics? Okay, what is syntax? Just put it in your chat box. What is syntax? Okay, someone is telling me I just studied morphology. Okay, um, maybe you would not go into details of all these, but syntax deals with the sentence structures basically. Okay, how do you form a sentence? For instance, English has the syntactic structure of a sentence, a usual, a regular syntax structure of the sentence is SVO, subject, verb, object, which is different from the syntactic structure of Urdu sentences. Okay, yeah. Um, as you know, Anila Hamid has written that it has to do with the arrangement of words and phrases. So the basic syntactic, when we talk about syntax and when we talk about the syntactic structure of sentences, we say that the usual syntactic structure of English sentences is SVO, subject, verb, object, which is different from Urdu or from any other language. Okay. Now people are trying to enter the room at 10:30. Please be on time. Be early, but do not be late. Okay. Anyway, so from your answers in the chat and from the discussion, I think the difference is clear, and I think that's enough. We basically have to do more with the applied linguistics. Today we are going to see what are the different areas that applied linguistics cover. Okay, and why applied linguistics is important. Basically, today we are going to look at the need for applied linguistics. What's the need for applied linguistics? Okay, okay, that's fine. I'm still getting answers for syntax. That's great that you have put it in the chat for your class fellows who might not know about syntax. But I've also told you what it is, and it's of course has to do with the theoretical linguistics. Okay, now what you're seeing on your screen is the definition of applied linguistics. I have told you that since it's a broad field and people have looked at applied linguistics differently, and applied linguistics for different linguists has remained different, and they have given varied definitions. Now, before I forget, what I would like you to do for the next week. No, do we have a class tomorrow? Anyway, for the next class, if it's, I think we have a class tomorrow. So for the next class, what you're going to do, you are going to read different definitions of applied linguistics. Pick up one and elaborate. Okay. Uh, I'm repeating what you're going to do. You're going to select one of the many definitions of applied linguistics. You need to cite whose definition is it. Try to understand and explain that definition. Okay. Because the definition would tell you exactly what that particular linguist include in that particular definition. For instance, I selected this definition for you, and um, we had a discussion on this yesterday. Okay. Now let's move to what's the need for applied linguistics and what areas does it cover. Now, basically, as I told you that there has been debates among the linguists. One who believe that applied linguistics is only about anything related to language teaching. But many of the other linguists believe that besides language teaching, learning of language, just not the first language acquisition, learning of the second language, formal and informal learning of the language, syllabus design and testing. Applied linguistics also include some practical real life language problems. And let me check this chat. Okay, people are worried about the homework. That's good. Anyway, I'll repeat that if you were unable to hear me by the end of this class. Anyway, right now, please pay attention to the present slide. We are talking about applied linguistics, the areas that it covers, and what's the need for applied linguistics. Now, I told you that how there are two groups of linguists and what do they include in applied linguistics. One set of linguists include only second language learning, the formal teaching and learning of any language, just not English language, but any language. Okay. And other group also includes, it makes the field of applied linguistics still broader to include other language problems, the practical problems related to the language besides studying second or foreign language. Okay. It includes the first language acquisition problems in the language acquisition and language learning, and then the practical problems. And we discussed a number of language problems yesterday. Okay. One more thing. How many of you were able to download the material from LMS? And just let me know how many of you could access your LMS with the login IDs that have been sent to your emails as we are told, and how many of you could download the book that I sent you. Please answer me in chat so that I know if I could give you some readings also, and we'll continue from here. Yeah, people are asking how can you check the material in LMS? The first thing is you need to have your ID, login ID and password, which we are told that the IT has emailed you. The data that was collected by your CR was given to the IT department. They have created your class. We have put our courses and our material there, so you can access that. But I don't think any one of you. Acha, did you get the book? Those who could access there, did you get the book, An Introduction to Applied Linguistics? I put it last evening. Okay, I don't know when did you check my portal, but I put it last evening, and right after the class, I have another class, but by 3 o'clock I'll put another book. Okay. No one has got the book, right? Okay. It's good to, the book is there. The book is there, and you just have to press or click the download button. You will get the book, I guess. I don't know how my portal looks to you, but try to access it. Anyway, if there are a number of students who are unable to access LMS or the material that I'm uploading, please let your CR know. Then I'll email you. Okay, the old method would work for us, right? Okay, in which tool I have, Aziza, I have put that in resources also and in your syllabus too, right? So when you would go there, the name of the course is AL, sorry, Applied Linguistics, right? My name would be there, I suppose. And then when you go to the resources, you would be able to get the book. Okay, someone has got this. Okay, Aziza is saying it's there. It's there. Aziza has downloaded the book. Okay, it's a good book as an introduction, but I'll send you another book. Okay, and then I'll assign you readings also. Okay, now let's continue with the class. Okay, right. So applied linguistics basically covers two main points. And that really depends on the way the different linguists look at it. And I've already told you that most of the linguists they still believe. And as I've given you the homework of reading definitions of applied linguistics, you will find out that many have restricted their definitions to language teaching methodology, second language, and foreign language. And you'll find few who have talked about other language practical problems. So basically, applied linguistics covers two main areas. But in this course, we will be covering much of the time. We'll be talking about the first one. Okay, that's a popular notion about applied linguistics. Someone's mic is on. Nagma, please mute yourself. Yeah. Right. So let's talk about what is the aim of applied linguistics. Okay, what are the studies in applied linguistics, and what is the aim of applied linguistics studies? Now, before we move to that, what's the need of applied linguistics, right? Now, applied linguistics is important because language is important. Language is at the heart of human life, okay? No activities, if you observe around, is possible without the use of language. And this is the objective, and this is the aim, and this is the importance, and this is the need of applied linguistics. You cannot do anything without words. What are we doing now, right now, as I'm delivering this lecture? I'm using the language, and since you're able to understand my language, so we are going well. You make friends, you talk in the family, you learn, you practice your religion through your language, you have political ideas that you express through language. So everything from from your hobbies of music, from your hobbies of watching movies, everything depends on the language. Okay, so that's why this is the need of applied linguistics, because everything revolves around language. Everything is, if I say everything is language, it wouldn't be any exaggeration, right? And when we talk about language, we are not talking about only the explicit kind of a language. We also talk about implicit language. And by implicit use of language, we mean the implied meaning of the language. When you say, when you say less and mean more, okay? And that is what is implied meaning in a language. When you say less and mean more, then we have, metaphorical language also. That's also a researchable area. And all kinds of, we are using language from the time we get up and till the time we go to sleep. It's all about language, telling children stories, everything. So now, what is the aim of applied linguistic studies? Of course, it has to deal with the second or the foreign language. Yesterday I differentiated the second language and the foreign language in my lecture. And I gave you the example of English as a second language for us and English as a foreign language for maybe the French people or the German people or for the Chinese people. Okay. Since we are covering applied linguistics more in the context of language learning, so we will be investigating problems related to learning and teaching, right? And we'll talk about different language methodologies, the problem people face when they actually applied those methodologies, and then how did they move to other methods. So there would be some practical steps to solve those problems, okay? When we say that applied linguistics is used to answer some practical language problems, so we mean that it should come up with certain solutions also. That probably sometimes not the aim of theoretical linguistics, but in applied linguistics, we usually come up with some problems, problem solving. Applied linguistics is problem solving, in other words. I've also given you example from my own thesis of master's in Karachi University, the problem of medium of instruction, medium of examination, medium of, syllabus or the material. So these three things were working differently. Teachers were teaching in one language, syllabus was in another language, exam was optional to be taken in any of the two languages, right? So, okay, I was just checking this chat, right? So in our syllabus of applied linguistics, we would be dealing with the problems, most of the problems that are related to English as a second language, because I told you that we don't study English as a foreign language here anyway. So that happens to be the aim of applied linguistics. Now there are certain questions that are answered by applied linguistics when we talk about language learning. Okay, for instance, what language skills should children attain beyond basic literacy, right? So what are those skills that are required for a child to learn the language skills? Okay, and there are different language skills. When you talk about language skills, the basic language skills are four. These are reading, writing, speaking, and reading, writing, speaking, and listening. Okay, these are the four basic language skills. We talk about those also in applied linguistics. How much those should be attained by children at what age. Then we talk about standard language and dialect, which one should be taught. Whose mic is on? Asma, Saima, Nagma, please mute yourself. Okay. So I'm talking about what are some of the questions that applied linguistics answer. In other words, what are some of the problems? So applied linguistics also deals with the standard language, how languages are standardized. I don't know if you have done standardization of language. Please put on the chat if you have done standardization of language. It's an area of sociolinguistics. Have you done standardization of language? Okay, that's great. Right, right. So you have a good idea that every language that has to be put for practical purposes needs to be standardized. Okay. There are dialects of language, and then there is standard language also. And in English, RP is the standard. Received pronunciation is considered to be the standard language. That's the language of Oxford University, also of the royal family too, and that's the language that is part of the education also. We don't teach English, or we do not speak in certain dialects while we are in the formal classrooms. This is one of the questions, one of the problems that applied linguistics answers. Okay. My God, who's this? Please mute your mic. Nagma, what's your problem? Why do you open your mic when I mute it? Look at her. Nagma, you'll be out of this class if you open your mic now, okay? Okay, getting back to what else it does. Applied linguistics also deals with those communities where, more than one language is being spoken. Almost research says that 60% of people are bilingual, and you must have observed all of us are bilingual. Who are the monolinguals in the world today? Maybe the Britishers are monolingual today, or our grandparents are monolingual today. They do not know any language other than their native language. Otherwise, most of the population of the world is bilingual, and applied linguistics also studies bilingualism. Nagma, Aziza, who is this Nagma? Please mute yourself. You're distorting the recording also, and you're distorting my voice also. Okay. So applied linguistics also, deals with bilingualism. The communities where more than one language is spoken. So there's a need to decide which language would go into education and which language would be standardized. Right? Nagma, should I remove you? What should I do? Could you please mute yourself? Okay. Okay, so we were talking about monolingualism and bilingualism. We have talked about the standard language. Then we also talk about some learning difficulties of children, of students also. Aphasia maybe is one of them, but applied linguistics also deals with um, language acquisition and learning by special children, such as the deaf children or who are hard of hearing. It also deals with, in this particular case, it deals with the sign language, which is a combination of course, lip reading and speaking. Applied linguistics also answers the question, should everyone learn a foreign language? And if it is a foreign language, which one would it be? And how to teach and learn that language. It also answers, and it is a relevant question in applied linguistics. Should every child study literature? And if English is learned through its literature, what kind of a literature would it be for children or for adults or for the immigrants who are trying to learn another language? Okay. Other than that, it also deals with language change. I hope all of these are sociolinguistic phenomena, and you must have touched upon it during your course of sociolinguistics. Language change. How does a language change? English has also changed over the years. You must have heard that previously we had Old English, then we had Middle English, and then we have this modern English. Today that we speak is not the English that used to be spoken centuries ago. Okay, so languages change, and we know how do language change through code switching and through code mixing, and then languages do not remain pure, and then they change. Some of the languages may also die in the process. You might have read the phenomenon of language death also, where language become extinct at times. Okay. Now, related to this, we also talk about lingua franca. What is a lingua franca in a bilingual society, and how much lingua franca should be promoted, and what is the reason for a language to become lingua franca? For instance, Urdu is our lingua franca, despite the fact that this is not the language of the majority population of Pakistan. But there are some historical reasons we would reflect if we get a chance to why Urdu became, or Urdu had to become a lingua franca for us. Okay. Otherwise, globally speaking, English happens to be the lingua franca. By the way, what is lingua franca? Could someone put in the chat, what is lingua franca? Okay, people do not have an idea. Okay, lingua franca is a language which is understood by most of the people in a society. Okay, which is the means of communication among people who do not share a common language. For instance, in Pakistan, we do not share a common native language. We are the speaker, being a bilingual and a multilingual society. We are speakers of different languages. We have different mother tongues. Okay, so it happens to be the common language for communicative purpose. Imagine if we do not have a lingua franca, we would be in trouble. You would not be able to understand me. I would not be able to understand you. So Urdu happens to be the lingua franca, but for educational purposes, we teach English also, because English is the global lingua franca now. It connects. English is the language that connects you internationally. Okay, so lingua franca basically is a common language that is not the first language of the people, and or that might not be the first language of all the people in a community, in a society, or in a country, but that links the people linguistically, and that makes things work for them. Okay, that's lingua franca. Basically, is the working language in bilingual societies. Okay, so Urdu happens to be our lingua franca, and English happens to be the international lingua franca, common language. Now, there are a number of questions that are raised on this topic of lingua franca, when we have a lingua franca, how native languages are affected, and how far a lingua franca should be promoted, such as English language, right? Because, when certain language is promoted, that means the other languages are not getting equal attention in terms of their standardization, in terms of spending on developing certain languages. So sometimes lingua franca becomes a threat to other languages, and English is considered to be a threat by many of the linguists working in different countries. Okay. Now, moving on, what else does it do? I talked about language planning and policy also yesterday. That's also an area of applied linguistics, because through language policy we decide what would be the official language and the co-official language, even the lingua franca, the language of education. Whose mic is on? Nagma, either mute your mic, or if you are not technically sound, please ask your family not to interrupt. Okay, you have to rush for your other class also. Anyway, I'm just, finishing it. This Nagma is taking too much time. Nagma, please, one more thing I would like to tell you. You have to take responsibility of your own learning here, okay? You need to learn these gadgets. You need to deal with it technically. Otherwise, it would take more of our time. Anyway, getting back to what it answers all these questions. I told you it talks about language teaching, learning, foreign language, lingua franca in bilingual societies, language change, how standardization of one language would affect other languages, what would be the language of the courtrooms, of education, of culture. All of these are, studied within the domain of applied linguistics, right? Okay. I've told you that why we need applied linguistics, because it is related to solving language related problems. And I told you that language lies in the heart of human society. Language is crucial to human life. Nothing is impossible, but nothing is possible without language, right? So language is everywhere. People have been using language, people have been learning language, people have been changing language. There has been an existence of dialects and accents. All of these we study in applied linguistics. So why applied linguistics is important? Why is it significant? Because we see that the world is rapidly changing. And when we say that the world is rapidly changing, we talk about the world becoming a global village. We are connected with each other, okay, through the social media, through other means, but basically we are connected through language. If there is no language, there is no social media, no media at all. So the world becoming a global village, therefore there are rapid changes that are taking place, and these changes are of course affecting people and their languages too. So there is a need to investigate and understand the facts related to, or the problems related to, the use of language. We need to organize and formalize what we know, and what is the rationale, and how can we critically analyze the linguistic situation around the world. So we will be able to set out the options for action, and we will be able to reason it. We will be able to solve the problems through applied linguistics. Okay. Other than that, I've told you what questions are covered in applied linguistics. You can just have a quick look at the slides also. We talk about learning, teaching, and learning of language, social factors that affects. We talk about technology, how technology can be used in teaching of language. I'm teaching you a course, but of course, technology can help you teaching of the language also. If you just Google, you'll get a lot of activities of language teaching and learning. Okay, so all of these are related to applied linguistics. Here, then we talk about language disorders also. I named aphasia. Then we talked about the sign language also that is used by children who are maybe they are special children who maybe are hard of hearing. Sign language and developing a sign language, improving on the sign language. All these are areas and questions that are answered and covered by applied linguistics. Okay. So finally, we develop in applied linguistics, we develop writing systems also. And for education, teaching children the language, they already know that's the acquisition of language, and then teaching of second language and the foreign language, that is the learning of the language. So we have been repeating this, that these can be covered. Okay. Okay, there are more areas to applied linguistics now. What homework did I give you? I've asked you to do something which I right now do not remember. Aziza, please unmute yourself. Nagma, please mute yourself. Aziza, unmute yourself and repeat the homework that I've given you quickly so that people can leave for the next class.
Ma'am, I could not listen to the homework because your voice is not coming.
Since when? You missed my whole lecture then, did you?
Sorry, ma'am?
Did you miss my whole lecture?
No, ma'am, when you were telling the homework, your voice was not coming.
Okay, I'll recall. I have to rush for the next class also, but I'll recall and I'll let you know.
And I guess you're talking about some definitions of authors and
yeah, exactly. Now girls, before we sign out, before we exit this class, I would like you to find out good definitions. I told you that there are varied definitions of applied linguistics by different linguists. We have discussed one of them that I selected for you. Now what you're supposed to do is find out a definition of applied linguistics, and then you need to cite whose definition is it, and then you need to explain, try to understand and then explain that particular definition, because I hope that this concept, the introduction of applied linguistics, is now clear to you. What applied linguistics is, what question it answers, and what areas um, do it cover. Okay, so I hope that's enough for today for the introductory section. Please do your homeworks if you have a class next when do we have a class? I think tomorrow we have a class, so I'll be looking at your homeworks tomorrow. And again, I repeat that you should take the responsibility of your own learning. We as teachers are trying to help you, but if you are not following the instructions, not downloading the material, not doing your homeworks, so we would not be able to help you. We are unable to check you on regular basis as we could have done had the university been open. So you need to take responsibility of your own learning. Okay, just not for my subject, for every subject for that matter. Okay, so I'm signing off because you have to go for another class and I have to rush for my next class. So you can leave the meeting so that I can admit other people. Okay.